All right, what's up, everybody? So today I'll be talking about Doom: The Dark Ages. So as you can see, I literally just have a Bethesda video looping in the background because, frankly, I don't want to ruin this for anyone. Um, Now, of course, it is a Doom game, so it's not like there's story spoilers. We kind of know what happens because it's a prequel. However, I think there are some really cool gameplay elements and scenery and stuff like that, and some just really badass moments that I think it's best experienced yourself. Um, so, talking about Doom: The Dark Ages, bottom line up front, it's freaking awesome. 100 million% recommend. I love Doom 2016. I absolutely adore Doom Eternal. And I think Dark Ages might actually be my favorite among those three, which is kind of crazy. Um, so now, what's up with the cherry blossom thing? All right, I was thinking, I was just so in awe of what id Software has been able to do with the modern Doom franchise. So, if anyone's seen the movie The Last Samurai, there is a samurai, as one would expect, who frequently talks about his quest to find the perfect cherry blossom. Now, at the end of the movie, as he's dying, sorry for spoilers, he realizes that every cherry blossom is perfect in its own way. And I'm kind of realizing that that's kind of how the modern Doom trilogy is. And that's just, it is so unbelievably impressive to me what id Software has done with modern Doom. So we had Doom 2016, which was run and gun. We had Doom Eternal, where you were a freaking fighter jet just zipping all over the place like an insane person. And then Doom: The Dark Ages, where it feels like you are a tank running around in a suit of armor with a shield, and you just feel like a ultimate badass. And each of those games is kind of perfect in its own way. Of course, they all have some drawback. No game is actually perfect, but for the most part, all three of the modern Doom games are really masterpieces. And I have to give id so much credit for going back to the drawing board, looking back at the original Doom games for a lot of inspiration, and innovating over and over again in their gameplay systems, in gameplay loops, in progression, in everything. Um, I think so. One topic of conversation earlier this year was Assassin's Creed, right? And one of the big critiques of Assassin's Creed is that it's been very samey for a very long time. Ubisoft really likes to reuse concepts. If you've played one Ubisoft game, that's why there's this concept of a Ubisoft game, because they all kind of feel very similar. Now, I remember playing the original Assassin's Creed when it came out, and that shit blew my mind. It was like everybody at school was talking about it. It was just incredible that you could do the things you could do in the original Assassin's Creed game. Now, why am I talking about Assassin's Creed? What is going on? So, by constantly innovating and refreshing their approach to making a Doom game, what it has really done, in my opinion, is actually make their earlier iterations of the modern Doom franchise even better. Because we're not in a situation, they very easily could have come out with two more Doom games that had very similar mechanics to Doom 2016, and it kind of would have cheapened the experience of the original Doom, of the modern trilogy. And that's what happens to some series like Far Cry. I'm kind of shitting on Ubisoft, but Far Cry and Assassin's Creed and whatever, you just get the same mechanics over and over again, and it kind of cheapens the entire franchise. Whereas I feel like because it has innovated so much and constantly pushed what they could make a Doom game into, it's kind of made Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal even better. Because there's a reason to go back and play those games because they're totally different experiences. So I just really, I know I'm glazing id really hard right now, but I'm just so blown away that they were able to make another Doom game that feels so different to play at such a high quality bar that it's just beautiful. And talking about quality, that brings us into our next point, which is the graphics and kind of performance. I have heard some people have had some like crash issues. I haven't had that. Maybe I'm lucky. I can only speak for myself. So my PC, I have an AMD Ryzen 7800 or something X3D processor, and then a 5070 Ti. So it's like, it's pretty solid. It's not like top of the line. It's not like a 5090, but it's pretty darn good. But that being said, I mean, I've played a lot of Unreal Engine games that even with a good PC kind of run like shit. If I'm just going to be straight up, Jedi Survivor, I still have PTSD from playing that game, even though now it is one of my favorite games ever. I love Jedi Survivor, but that game was atrocious at launch. So the id Tech engine, I'm convinced that the main plot of Doom as a franchise is actually going to culminate in us finding out what kind of demonic ritual id Software uses to bring the id Tech engine into existence. Because I mean, we saw a recent showcase of the id Tech engine in Indiana Jones, and that was just like gorgeous. Like, that game was incredible, but it was a pretty slow game. You were like sneaking around a lot. There wasn't like too much happening at once. Like, you might have like 5 fascists running at you or something at one time, but that's like kind of it. Doom the Dark Ages is a totally different beast. There are sections of this game which, are almost, they're not quite open world, but they're pretty big zones. And there's like no real loading screens or anything. Like, once you're in a mission, you're just in the mission. And some of these missions are freaking huge. Like, it really feels like you're on a battlefield. And just like Doom Eternal, the game runs so smooth. Just like, you cannot have an FPS game like this that it just would feel so much worse if the engine couldn't keep up with it. So, id Tech or id Software, once again showcasing that probably the best engine out there, in my opinion. Like, after playing Indiana Jones and then this, like, it's just unbelievable how good the game looks and how well it runs. And from my experience, the game has been completely bug-free. I can't speak to everybody, obviously, but for me, it's been bug-free. So after the graphics, I just wanted to talk about the sound a little bit. So, so this covers a couple different topics. So I'm just going to say straight up, I don't think the music is as good as 2016 or Eternal. I like the music a lot. The music definitely plays a more of a backseat role in Doom the Dark Ages, which is okay. I know everything that happened with Mick Gordon and id, and like, I don't really like how they handled that situation. I keep thinking back to like how crazy people would have gone if, let's say years ago, before all the bullshit happened, let's say like at QuakeCon, Marty and Hugo come on stage and they're like, we'd like to welcome a new member of our team, and it's frickin' Mick Gordon like getting hired by id. Like, that people would have gone insane. So I really feel like id did not do themselves any favors with how they handled that situation. And of course, like, they've both kind of presented their own sides to the story. We don't really know what happened, but it's something unpleasant. And I think it shows. I think the music is still really good, but like, I listen to the Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal OSTs like all the time, even today. I don't know if I'm going to be like looking up specific songs from Doom the Dark Ages to play again. And that's kind of that's an easy metric for, was the music in a game really good? Like if I'm looking up specific songs from a game to play just when I'm doing other stuff, so I'm talking about like Persona 3 Reload. Like, I mean, I listen to music from that game all the time. Obviously, Expedition 33 just came out. Ridiculously good soundtrack. I've listened to those songs. I heard my kids humming the Expedition 33 music the other day because I've been listening to it so much. It's just so good. So the music in Doom: The Dark Ages is solid, but it's not quite as good as it was before. So that's one minor negative. I will say the sound effects in this game are really good. Most of the weapons sound really nice. The only one that I wish was a little better was the skull type weapons, which, you know, they've shown those in some of the previews. So like there are a couple skull weapons, and I don't know, I wanted them to sound more like skull grindy. They kind of just had like a pretty generic like shooty sound. That was probably the only critique. I think the sounds of the Doomslayer as he's walking around, like they do such a good job with like the slight screen shakes, the really heavy like thudding footsteps, like like you feel like you are a tank, like literally an Abrams tank just plowing through all these demons. Especially when it comes to some of like how you can just implode groups of enemies, especially with your shield, which that brings us to the next section, which would be the combat. So the mantra for this game is stand and fight, and they've gone on over and over again about how like that's kind of their idea with this iteration of Doom is stand and fight. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I was like a little skeptical of this because I'm like, how are you gonna make a game with like a shield and a gun and like make me want to be up in the enemy's faces? But I mean, I will gladly admit my concerns were very misplaced, because the moment to moment gameplay of this game is freaking incredible. Like I could just play this game like forever. Like it just feels so good to play. Like just like I go back to Doom Eternal and play that sometimes when I'm like itching for it. I'm probably just going to keep this installed on my PC like all the time so I can go back and play it every once in a while, because it just feels so good. The secrets and stuff are still there, you know, like there's like a good amount of like exploration, but it's not so like onerous like it was at some points in Doom Eternal. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I hated the parkour sections. Like, I know the aerial mobility in Doom Eternal was really nice, but I did not like the whole like, you know, like dash onto this thing, then you flip into the air and you dash through like a thing in the air that makes you shoot over here, and you gotta aim it correctly. And like, I'm gonna be honest, like that just feels that's more of like a platforming type thing, and I just don't super like that in a Doom game, to be honest. In Doom: The Dark Ages, like combat is front and center like 95% of the time. Yes, there is a story, which I guess I should touch on that a little bit. I thought the story was pretty cool. Like, I know, like, I saw a lot of reviews before I played that were going on and on about how there were, like, too many cutscenes and stuff like that. Like, I don't know if we've played different games, but yes, there are cutscenes, like, in between missions, but they're, like, 30 seconds long. Like, it's pretty short. I did not think the cutscenes were too long by any stretch. Maybe I'm just like more of an old school gamer. I play a lot of like single player games where there are cutscenes, so like maybe I just don't mind as much. But I'd say like at least 95% or more of the game, you are just killing demons with cool shit, which is exactly what you want from Doom. All right, so getting back to the combat. Okay, I won like another negative, which I do want to address, which like it's not like really a negative. It is a little bit. I do miss some of the unique glory kills from Doom Eternal, if I'm going to be honest. Like, I understand what they were saying. I feel like Doom the Dark Ages does have like really good moment to moment gameplay flow, and I like the fact that you can jump in the air and do a finisher, and then you do like an actual animation. But if you're just like fighting an enemy, you kind of just like smack them or kick them or whatever. There are some unique animations for the really strong enemies, like the leaders and stuff like that. The ones where you get the upgrades from. So where you like, I actually think those are pretty sick. Where you like rip their heart out, and then like they're like reaching for you, like pleading for you to not burst their heart open, and you just like crush it in your gauntlet, and like that like electricity going down your gauntlet. Oh my, that is like one of my favorite animations in like all of gaming. It is, oh my god, it looks so good. So anywho, I do wish that there were some more, like maybe if there was like a chance to like have a glory kill or something like that, but that is one thing I do miss a little bit from Doom Eternal. I do agree with them that like if I was, because there's a lot of enemies in this game. Like there are times where like I swear to God there's like 100 enemies on my screen. It is nuts. So I could see where like, you know, a lot of the strategy in Doom Eternal was like, you know, weapon swapping and using specific things against specific enemies, and then like kind of daisy chaining glory kill animations so that you could like get some immunity windows and stuff like that. Like I understand where that they wanted to avoid that, which is fine. It would just be nice if there was like a little chance or something to like get some of the cool glory kills again, but I don't think it's like a huge deal break. It's not like a deal breaker or anything. It's just, you know, it was nice. So another thing with the combat, and this might be a little controversial, because I know I've seen a lot of, similar to the story where I've seen a lot of people dislike that, and I didn't mind it, is the Atlan and Dragon sections. And yo, this dragon is such a bro. Like Sarat is the dragon's name. I don't know if it's Sarat or Sarah. But this dragon is such a bro. I love this dragon. I want to get like a little statue of this dragon. I love this thing. So I personally, and maybe this is a hot take, I really like the Atlan and the dragon sections, if I'm going to be completely honest. Like they were short. Like most of the missions in this game are like, I don't know, like 20 to 30 minutes. Like if you're like, I mean, there were some of the maps that were really big, and I was exploring around a lot trying to get, you know, some of the secrets and the upgrades and stuff. Like you can easily spend 40 minutes in one mission in this game. But the dragon missions, like the time you're spending on the Atlan and on the dragon are pretty short, honestly. You know, it usually comes in like, so usually the dragon missions, you're not really on the dragon all the time. You're like flying somewhere with the dragon and then landing or whatever. And same thing with the Atlan. There's a couple missions where you're in the Atlan the whole mission, but honestly, like those are really short. And then I think that the way that they used the Atlan and the dragon like really helped contribute to like the epicness of Doom the Dark Ages. It just feels so over the top, Hollywood epic. And the way that they leveraged those two mechanics, I think really contributed to that. Like busting through bridges and buildings with your Atlan and just like going toe to toe and punching like enemy Titan demons in the face, and like it is just, it's freaking badass. And then there's I really like there's a little scene with the Atlan. I thought it was pretty awesome. I won't spoil that though. And okay, so similarly with the dragon, like there is a point where there's a couple points where you're like flying your dragon around a really big area, and you have to do certain things. And I don't want to go into that in too much detail, but like it really helped give a sense of scope of like, okay, you're flying around like this building / city, like it feels huge because you're flying around it on a dragon. Similarly, there's like a entity that you are flying around, and you get a sense of how massive it is because of the dragon. So I personally thought the Atlan and the dragon were really cool. I don't think they overstayed their welcome, which is actually kind of I think that's really important. It's hard to introduce different mechanics in a game like this and have them not overstay their welcome, because frankly they're very simple. Like your kit as the Doomslayer, you have a lot of options at your disposal with your shield and your different weapons and whatnot. You don't get that with the Atlan and the dragon. They're very simple. It's like fly around, shoot stuff, dodge. Atlan is like long dashing punch, palm punch, ground slam, normal punch. It's really simple. So if the missions with those were really long, I would probably think they were kind of boring. But I thought they used them just right. They gave a sense of scale and they broke up the pace a little bit, and I thought they were pretty awesome. I really like the dragon specifically. I want a statue of that dragon so badly. It's awesome. Okay, so getting to kind of one of the stars of the show in terms of combat is the shield. So Hugo really talked a lot about the shield before, in the marketing period for the game. And he was really going on and on about it. I'm going to be honest, I was kind of skeptical of the shield going into Doom the Dark Ages, and once again, I was so dead wrong, to a ridiculous extent, because man, this shield is freaking badass. It's awesome. The feeling of when you are in one of these open huge battlefield zones and you jump off of a cliff and you just see all these demons, and you bring your shield up and you shield slam down into them, and there's this huge shockwave, and it's the amount of dopamine just pouring into you from that it's unbelievable. And then the shield just has so many different uses. You can use it for instantly clearing groups of enemies. You can use it to break enemy shields, break enemy armor. You can use it to stun enemies that you want to get some shots in on. You can use it obviously defensively, which is blocking projectiles. But you have to use. So one thing I was a little worried about was that it was going to make the game too easy. So you could just hide behind your shield and shoot, and it wouldn't be as tactical like we expect from a Doom game. That is not how it works. If you're just soaking projectiles with your shield, that it breaks really fast, and my shield is completely upgraded. So you cannot just sit behind your shield and stay safe. You still need to be moving around the battlefield tactically, parrying the right projectiles, which that feels. There are some upgrades you can get where the parrying feels amazing, absolutely godly. You just feel incredible when you get a parry off. And there have been some there's a lot of times where I was at 5 health, I got some clutch parries off, and the kind of tides turned. That's another thing, is this game really incentivizes you being aggressive. It really teaches you to get up in the enemy's face, be aggressive, leverage your shield, and leverage, another thing, your melee weapons. So I guess one thing really quick about the shield before I forget is the mobility. So not only is your shield your defensive tool, it's also an offensive tool, and it's also your mobility. So yes, this game is not like Eternal where you have dashes and double jumps and you're a fighter jet. You do have mobility in this game where it's oh man, I've got these 3 really strong demons. Some of the later fights get really chaotic. Kind of like Eternal. So, there were times where I'm oh, I have so many strong demons. This is a death trap. I need to disengage, kind of kite around a little bit. So I would target some trash enemy off to the side, shield dash to him. You can get an upgrade where killing enemies with your shield upgrades your shield bash. So when you bring it up, you can target an enemy and then activate it to dash to them, and you do this shield slam. that thing can do a ton of damage. So it can combine mobility and damage in one. So shield is really awesome. The complement to that shield is it is the Dark Ages. So you have your melee weapons. The melee weapons I liked in general. I personally don't think the melee weapons are like super balanced. So you get a gauntlet at first, and then you get like a mace. I'm not going to tell you how you get the mace, but you get a mace, and then you get a flail. Well, the flail you actually get second. I personally think the flail is just like the overwhelming best choice, which I wish the other two melee were like a little better. The flail just has interactions with like armor and armor generation that I personally just think it's the best option by a long shot. So that was probably the only thing I didn't like about the melee system. They all feel really, really good to use. And at first I thought like, man, melee weapons are super broken in terms of like damage. However, as the game went on and the enemies got harder and I got more upgrades for my guns, I started to use my melee like more for utility, like to break armor and generate armor for myself and stuff like that. And less to just like, bull rush down like heavy demons. So I thought the balance in terms of like how the game encouraged me to use my shield, use my melee weapons, and use my guns all at the same time, I thought that was a really, 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 really nice balance. Like you wanted to do, and this is like kind of similar to why Eternal was so good. Like you wanted to use all the mechanics all the time. There is one big difference between Dark Ages and Eternal that I personally like a lot. So a lot of Eternal was like a puzzle, it's like, okay, you see like the skeleton. I'm so bad at remembering demon names, so my apologies for that. You see like the skeleton dudes with the rocket launchers, or you see the fat guys with the the rocket hands, like, oh, gotta get my sniper rifle out to counter that. Or you see a Coco demon and you're like, oh, I need to throw a grenade in its mouth or use my grenade launcher shotgun mod to like one shot it. So like a lot of the enemies in Doom Eternal had really specific counters that you almost like, you didn't like have to do the counters, but like if you didn't, it felt really bad. Like it was going to take you so much longer to kill those enemies, and they were going to be so much of an issue, so much more of an issue if you didn't counter them. And it was very specific how you had to counter them. So combat felt like a little bit more prescribed. And I know a lot of people like that because you were constantly swapping weapons. You were constantly like, which is like, it was, I love Doom Eternal. I thought it was an amazing combat system. I like Doom the Dark Ages almost a little more, or at least as much, because one, I really like the customization you can do for the weapons. There's like some options you can take and like how weapons function. There's also I like that the upgrades that you can get, like, yes, there's like the you get more max health or whatever. How you get those I think is way cooler than Doom Eternal. I think like the skill tree type idea, I personally like Dark Ages a lot more than Doom Eternal. I think it's like more interesting upgrades that like kind of change how you're playing. Like I invested really heavily in the Cycler because I just really like the energy weapons in the modern Doom series. So I played a lot with the Cycler, the super shotgun, obviously. I mean, it's a Doom game. I freaking love shotguns. So and then I went all in on my shield, and I really liked the flail. So I kind of was able to craft like my own play style. And I will say the animation to change weapons with the weapon wheel is pretty long. And the fact that you don't reload, you're really incentivized. I think how the devs like want you to play is you pick two guns you focus on, and you hot swap between those. So for me, like, I played with a controller, so I would just tap the right bumper, and that swapped between them pretty quickly. If I tried to use the weapon wheel to switch to a specific weapon, it almost felt like too long, you know. So it's definitely doable, but I feel like the playstyle they wanted you to have was picking two weapons you specialized in, upgrading those, and then swapping between those by tapping to, swap between them. That being said, I think all the weapons are really awesome in their own way. I like a lot of the upgrades. There's some similar stuff to the previous games, of course, but there are some really new weapons as well, which I think are really fun, and they have some really cool interactions. So I think overall, the combat it just has a really good pace to it. I personally think the difficulty is pretty good. I forget which one, I don't remember the name. I played on the one above Ultraviolence. I don't remember the name of it. I did not play on one of the super hard difficulties. I'm planning on doing another playthrough where I try to get the skins for the Slayer from doing those. So I'm probably going to be playing this game for quite a while. I will say I tried it out on like Ultra Nightmare or whatever the hardest difficulty is, with just to like F around with all the difficulty settings cranked up, like the speed and everything, and holy shit, this game gets absolutely unreal. If you have it on because there's the actual difficulty settings themselves, but then there's like more difficulty customization you can do, which kind of brings me into this last point. Is you can make the game really hard if you want to. And I will say, this is something I've really come to appreciate, probably more recently. So there's a few games that do a really good job of offering the player more options to customize their experience with the game. So one of these, I think the Remedy games like Control and Alan Wake 2 had a lot of really good options. For all of my misgivings with the game, I think that the difficulty options that Starfield added were really nice. You could make the game, the game's not really hard anyways, but you could kind of not interact with almost any of the mechanics in the game, or you could ramp everything up and turn it into a survival game almost. It drastically altered your experience playing the game based on those settings. And I think they kind of did something similar with Doom: The Dark Ages, which I think is awesome. If you thought Eternal was too fast and you want to slow the game down, you can do it. I'm not one of those people where it says you have to play the game on the hardest difficulty to really enjoy it, or say you played it. That's bullshit. Everybody's, so many gamers are super busy nowadays. I have 3 kids and a job. It's, if play the game how you want to play the game. And I think it's really nice that they gave people that option. One final thing, so in terms of combat that I forgot to mention, is there are no Marauders in this game. However, I feel like the gold shield dudes kind of fill that same role. So they feel like a slightly less bullshit version of the Marauder, which I don't know if those guys were in any marketing material actually, so I might have just broken my no spoiler rule, but there are some normal and some beefier, elite demons that you run into that do pose a decent challenge. Now, one thing I will say I was a little kind of disappointed by, I didn't like some of the boss fights quite as much. Towards the end of the game, I thought they were better, but some of the bosses in the earlier missions, I just didn't. Some of them I didn't even realize they were a boss. So that was whatever. It wasn't, and Doom Eternal did have some pretty good boss fights in my opinion. So that is one small drawback to Doom: The Dark Ages. But honestly, overall, this is for me, I love Doom. So I'd say this is a 9 out of 10, maybe a little higher. It is, I 1,000,000% recommend this game, whether you get it on Game Pass or you get it on Steam or whatever. Like, it is incredible. I'm going to be playing this game a lot. I want to go back and find all the secrets and beat it on the hardest difficulty, and honestly just play it more. Like, just the gameplay itself is so addicting, that it's just awesome. So I just wanted to kind of go through some of my thoughts. I guess, if anyone's made it this far, I really appreciate that. I guess in terms of like this channel, I've almost exclusively covered Warframe content. I do want to start branching out to other things. I have almost 6,000 hours in Warframe, and I still play it. It's not like I've abandoned the game or anything. But I don't play it to the extent where I'm like coming up with new builds and stuff and like investing so much time as I used to. I still like making videos, but I'm gonna just start covering videos of the stuff I do like, or the stuff that I'm playing more, which lately has been things like Dune: The Dark Ages, Expedition 33, Atomfall, stuff like that. So probably gonna make some more videos, along those lines. But I just thought Doom was so awesome. I think anybody who is a Doom fan isn't really on the fence about this, but for people who might kind of like action-y games or FPS games with campaigns, like, and might be on the fence, like, definitely check out Doom: The Dark Ages. It is just absolutely unbelievably good. So that's Doom: The Dark Ages. So thanks for watching. Really appreciate it, and I'll catch you around. All right, see ya. Bye.